The mystery of Area 51 and the aliens. There is a place in the Nevada desert where the warning signs do not simply say, "Keep out." They say that if you cross this line, you may be watched, you may be photographed, you may be detained, and if you keep going, armed force may be used. No city lights, no crowds, no normal airport signs, just a dead white lake bed, mountains like broken teeth, heat rising from the sand, and a runway so long it looks less like a road for airplanes and more like a scar cut into the earth. For decades, the United States government would not openly talk about this place. Pilots saw strange objects in the sky. Civilians whispered about bodies, wreckage, and alien technology. Former workers claimed something dangerous had been hidden behind the fences. And somewhere behind it all, a question grew larger than the desert itself. What is really buried inside Area 51? Tonight, we are not going to chase the cartoon version of the story. We are going deeper. Because the darkest secret of Area 51 may not be that America hid aliens there. The darker secret may be this. For more than half a century, the truth was strange enough that people did not need aliens to be terrified. This is the story of Area 51 and the mystery of the beings we still imagine behind its gates. In the early 1950s, America was afraid. Not the kind of fear that shows itself in public. This was quieter, colder. A fear discussed in sealed rooms, behind guarded doors, inside buildings where men in suits smoked cigarettes over maps of the Soviet Union. The Cold War had begun to turn the sky itself into a battlefield.
The United States needed to see inside enemy territory. It needed photographs of missile sites, air bases, nuclear facilities, and military movement. But ordinary aircraft could not do the job. They could be tracked, they could be shot down, they could start a war. So the CIA and Lockheed's secretive Skunk Works division began working on something extraordinary. A plane that could fly so high it would seem almost unreal. Its name was the U-2. But such a plane could not be tested at a normal airfield. It was too secret, too sensitive, too dangerous. If the wrong person saw it, the whole operation could collapse. So officials searched for a place that was empty enough to disappear into. They found it in the Nevada desert, Groom Lake, a dry lake bed surrounded by mountains, already near restricted government land, far from ordinary roads, far from casual witnesses, far from the kind of world where people ask questions and expect answers. On maps, the area had a simple designation, Area 51. But inside the project, they tried to make it sound less sinister. They called it Paradise Ranch, then simply the ranch. Imagine that name, Paradise, a place where the government built secrets in the dust. In 1955, Lockheed test pilot Tony LaVere climbed into the first U-2 during what was supposed to be a high-speed taxi test. Not a flight, just a test. The aircraft accelerated across the desert lake bed. Then suddenly, before anyone intended it, the impossible machine lifted off the ground. LaVere was airborne.
For a moment, even the pilot was shocked. He had accidentally taken one of the most secret aircraft in the world into the sky. That moment was more than an aviation accident. It was the beginning of Area 51's real legend. Because from that point on, strange things began appearing above the desert. Commercial pilots saw objects flying higher than anything they knew. Civilians saw silver shapes moving where no normal aircraft should be. People looked up and saw something beyond their understanding. And when people see something they cannot explain, the human mind does what it has always done. It creates a story. In the 1950s, the story became flying saucers. But the truth was more complicated. Many of those UFOs were not alien spacecraft. They were American secrets. The U-2 flew at altitudes that shocked observers. At certain times of day, sunlight could still reflect from the aircraft while the ground below was already dark. To a pilot in a lower aircraft or to a person staring up from Earth, that reflection could look like something glowing in the sky. Something silent, something impossible, something not from here. And the government had a problem. It could not tell the public, "Do not worry, that glowing object is only our secret spy plane flying above enemy reach." So silence became policy. Confusion became useful. The public saw UFOs, the government saw cover.
Area 51 was not just a base, it was a machine for producing mystery. And after the U-2 came something even more astonishing, the A-12 Ox Cart, a black, razor-shaped aircraft built for speed, altitude, and secrecy. It looked less like an airplane and more like a weapon from the future. It could fly at speeds and heights that made ordinary aviation seem primitive. The first A-12 test flight at Groom Lake took place in 1962. Think about what that means. While ordinary Americans were driving family cars with chrome bumpers and listening to radios in their kitchens, something out in the Nevada desert was already screaming across the sky like science fiction. No wonder people believed in aliens, because Area 51 was building aircraft that looked alien before the public even had the language to describe them. Then came stealth, black aircraft, angular aircraft, machines designed not just to fly, but to hide from radar, to vanish, to make enemy systems stare directly at them and see almost nothing. By the time rumors spread about black triangles over the desert, the line between military technology and extraterrestrial imagination had become almost impossible for the public to see. And maybe that was the point. Area 51 existed in a perfect psychological gap, too secret to explain, too visible to deny, too strange to seem ordinary. Every light in the sky became a clue.
Every denial became proof. Every defense became a confession. But there is another side of Area 51 that is much darker than alien rumors, because real people worked there. Real people flew experimental machines that could kill them. Real people built aircraft under pressure so extreme they often could not tell their families what they were doing. Real people boarded aircraft to go to a place that officially lived in a fog of denial, and some of them never came home. The CIA has acknowledged that personnel connected to the U-2 project lost their lives. Some were pilots. Others died when a transport aircraft carrying project members crashed into Mount Charleston near Las Vegas. No alien theory is needed to make that haunting. Imagine being the family of one of those men. You know your father, husband, brother, or son was doing something important, but no one can fully tell you what. No one can explain all of it. The work is classified. The place is classified. The mission is classified. Even grief becomes classified. This is one of the darkest emotional truths behind Area 51. The secrecy did not only hide aircraft, it hid sacrifice. And then there is the toxic secret. In the 1990s, Former workers and families alleged that people at the Groom Lake facility had been exposed to dangerous materials from open-air burning and hazardous waste disposal. They wanted answers.
They wanted records. They wanted to know what had been in the air, what had been in the soil, what had entered bodies and lungs. But the government argued that revealing certain information about the site could expose classified national security details. In 1995, President Bill Clinton issued a determination exempting the Air Force operating location near Groom Lake from disclosure requirements that would reveal classified information. Read that slowly. The government did not say, "There is no site." It did not say, "Nothing happened." It said, in effect, "This place is so sensitive that even environmental disclosure can become a national security problem." For conspiracy theorists, that sounded like gasoline poured on a fire. Because when a place is secret enough to hide its waste, people naturally wonder what else it can hide. Alien bodies? Recovered craft? Reverse-engineered engines? Or something more human, more bureaucratic, and more disturbing? A system where secrecy protects not only weapons, but mistakes. This is why Area 51 is so powerful in the American imagination. It sits at the crossing point of several fears. Fear of the unknown, fear of government power, fear of military technology, fear of contamination, fear that the official story is only the first layer of a much deeper lie. And then, in the late 1980s, the alien legend exploded. Claims surfaced that near Area 51, at a hidden facility sometimes called S4, the government had recovered alien craft and was trying to reverse engineer them. The story had everything: secret hangars, strange propulsion, alien technology, a hidden program beyond normal oversight. To believers, it explained everything: why the base was so guarded, why the government stayed silent, why the sky above Nevada seemed to produce impossible sightings again and again. To skeptics, it was a modern myth built on the real secrecy of classified aviation. But here is the important part. The myth survived because the environment was perfect for it. Area 51 was already real. The secrecy was real. The aircraft were real. The deceptions were real. The restricted land was real. The danger was real. So when someone said they are hiding alien technology, millions of people did not hear fantasy. They heard the next logical step. Because the government had spent decades teaching the public one lesson: we will not tell you what happens there. And once a government creates a blank space, the public fills it, sometimes with evidence, sometimes with fear, sometimes with monsters, sometimes with aliens. The strangest thing about Area 51 is that it became more famous after the government tried to keep it invisible. A secret base is supposed to disappear. Area 51 did the opposite. It became a symbol so powerful that in 2019, millions of people online joined a joke movement to storm the base and see them aliens. Most of them were joking, but the military did not laugh. Because Area 51 is not a theme park. It is not a movie set. It is not a harmless desert attraction. It is a restricted military site tied to some of the most sensitive aerospace development in American history. And that is what makes the alien obsession both funny and frightening. The public wants to see little green men. The military wants to protect whatever the next generation of war may look like.
And somewhere between those two desires, the myth keeps breathing. But then came a new era. The government stopped using only the language of UFO. It began using another term, UAP, unidentified anomalous phenomena. The language changed, but the question remained. What is flying in our skies?
In 2023, a congressional hearing brought the subject back into the center of American attention. Former military and intelligence figures testified about UAP concerns, pilot encounters, government transparency, and allegations of hidden programs. For believers, it felt like history cracking open. For skeptics, it was a reminder that testimony and proof are not the same thing. Then official reports followed. AARO, the Pentagon's Office for Investigating UAP, reviewed hundreds of reports. NASA studied how science could approach the problem, and the official conclusion remained cautious. There are unidentified things. There are unresolved cases. There are reports that deserve better data, but there is no confirmed evidence that UAP are alien spacecraft. That sentence disappoints many people, but it should not make the mystery feel smaller. It should make it feel sharper. Because if pilots are seeing things that remain unexplained, then we still have a problem. If sensors are confused, we have a problem. If foreign drones, balloons, experimental aircraft, optical illusions, satellite reflections, or classified programs are being mistaken for something else, we have a problem. And if even a small number of cases remain truly unexplained because the data is too poor, then the mystery is not solved, it is unfinished. Area 51 sits at the heart of that unfinished mystery. Not because we have proof of aliens behind the gates, we do not, but because Area 51 represents the one thing Americans distrust most: a locked door with government guards standing in front of it.
Behind that door may be aircraft, weapons, sensors, drones, materials, test programs, failures, successes, accidents, records, and perhaps secrets that will not be declassified for decades. That is the real darkness, not necessarily aliens in tanks, but history waiting in boxes, files waiting under black ink, names removed, dates hidden, programs renamed, budgets buried, aircraft seen by witnesses years before officials admit they existed. The truth of Area 51 has always arrived late. First, people saw strange lights. Years later, they learned about the U-2. Then they heard rumors of impossible speed. Years later, they learned about Oxcart and the Blackbird family of aircraft. Then came black triangles. Years later, stealth technology entered public consciousness. So the question is not only, are there aliens at Area 51? The better question is, what are people seeing today that will only be explained 30 years from now? That is where the myth becomes powerful again. Because Area 51 teaches us that yesterday's UFO can become tomorrow's declassified aircraft. Yesterday's conspiracy can become tomorrow's footnote. Yesterday's denial can become tomorrow's official history. But we must be careful. Not every rumor becomes truth. Not every witness is accurate. Not every light is a craft. Not every silence is a cover-up. The human mind is vulnerable in the dark, and the desert around Area 51 is very dark.
A distant aircraft can look like a star.
A flare can look like a portal. A drone can look like a disk. A secret test can look like an invasion. And fear can turn a locked gate into a doorway to another world. Still, one fact remains impossible to ignore. Area 51 became legendary because the government really did hide things there. Not imaginary things, real things. Aircraft that changed history, programs that shaped the Cold War, technology designed to spy, survive, strike, and vanish. It was a place where engineers built machines that seemed to break the rules of the sky. And when ordinary people saw those machines, they reached for the only explanation that felt big enough: aliens. Maybe that is the final irony. The legend of extraterrestrials may have protected the most earthly secret of all. Human beings were already building the future of war in the middle of the desert. Not with alien hands, with American money, American fear, American ambition, and American silence. So what is Area 51?
It is a military base. It is a Cold War relic. It is a living test site. It is a graveyard of secrets. It is a mirror. When we look at it, we see whatever we fear most. Some see aliens. Some see government lies. Some see black-budget weapons. Some see proof that the truth is always hidden from ordinary people. And maybe the reason Area 51 refuses to die as a legend is because it gives us the most terrifying possibility of all. That the universe may be full of mysteries, but the most dangerous ones are built by us. Tonight, the gates are still closed. The cameras are still watching. The warning signs still stand in the desert. And beyond them, the runway still cuts through Green Lake like a blade. Maybe there are no alien bodies inside. Maybe there never were. But something is there. Something secret. Something expensive. Something powerful enough that the world is still not allowed to see it clearly. And until that changes, people will keep staring at the Nevada sky. They will keep watching the lights. They will keep asking what the government knows. And somewhere beyond the mountains, behind the fences, under the silence of the desert, Area 51 will keep answering with nothing at all. Because sometimes silence is not the absence of a story. Sometimes silence is the story.